Welcome to Pivot Parenting, where we help parents of teens overcome regret and disappointment to find peace and connection in every situation. I'm Heather Frazier, your parenting expert. Journey with me to discover effective parenting tips, improve family relationships, and build a brighter future for your kids. Buckle up, things are about to get better. Happy December, my friend. I'm happy to be joining you wherever you're at today. I can't believe that we are so close to Christmas. I'm so excited for my son to come home from college and we can all be together and do all the things. And I'm happy that you're spending this time with me. I know your time is precious, and I appreciate that you trust me enough to hang out with me today. So today we're talking about one of my most popular topics, which is teens who don't care. You can call this apathy. You can call this laziness. Parents call it a lot of things. But essentially, if your teen just doesn't care. Now, I want you to understand that this is my second podcast episode that I have dedicated to this topic. Episode 100. So a couple years ago, I did one called Apathetic Teens. This episode 100 is my second most downloaded episode. My number one most downloaded episode is the one right after that, episode 101, called Lying Teens. So apathy is a big deal, and I'm not going to repeat information. I'm going to build on information today that I start in episode 100. I invite you to go back and listen to episode 100. Now, they are standalone, so you can listen to this one and then go back and listen to 100. But I just want to make sure that you know if this is a specific problem you're struggling with. I have 2 episodes for you, my friend. So be sure to catch both. What brought this common complaint to mind about our kids just not caring or feeling unmotivated is that a mom I know was complaining to me that her daughter is struggling and she's in high school. She won't get out of bed to get to school. She can't stay on top of assignments. Her room's always a mess. She loves to play basketball, which she'll happily do, but that's about it. And this mom sees her potential and she thinks she's lazy or doesn't care. And it's really frustrating to this mom. And she complains that her daughter is so smart and so great, but just doesn't care about anything. She's quit basically everything, and she has poor follow through with the essentials. These are the mom's words, right? But she has no problem hanging out with her friends or boyfriend or doing things that she likes. What I want to do here is define what a lack of motivation means. And I want you to come up with your definition. So take a second. What does a lack of motivation look like? Don't go for the right answer. Go for the honest answer. All right. Here's my answer. I don't think it's about laziness. I think that it's often about fear and overwhelm or a lack of personal connection to the task, like it's something they don't really like cleaning their room or doing homework. And then also we've got diagnoses in there. Maybe they have ADHD or anxiety or something like that. First and foremost, we want to make sure that there aren't red flags for things like depression, anxiety, or other diagnosable and treatable struggles, because these can present as a lack of motivation. And so we have to be really dialed in. Screening questions for these can be Googled. Be sure to specify for teens because it's slightly different, and even teen boys and girls. But it can look like negative self-chatter. If the mental aftermath after like a social or task type experience is worse than actually doing the thing. Like they're spinning out in their head saying, why did I say that? I looked so stupid. I shouldn't have even gone because I felt stupid and people probably think I'm stupid. Or a decline in personal hygiene. decline in grades, and not engaging in previous passions and hobbies that they loved. It can look like anger, especially for our girls, lashing out, shutting down. If you have any of those red flags, I invite you to do a search, make a doctor's appointment, whatever you are most comfortable with, in making sure there isn't an undercurrent of anxiety, depression, or other diagnosable and treatable struggle. Today, I want to give you 2 points. The first one is I want to help you understand why teens don't care and why that's not a problem for you. And then number 2 is I want to provide practical steps that you can implement to ignite and motivate your teens in a way that can feel more authentic to them and more helpful. Now, before I dive into these, though, I want to be very clear that this is not a podcast episode in how to train your child. Because I don't know if you've met many teenagers, but they don't want to be trained like a pet. They don't want to be told what to do and how to live. Most humans don't. I'm guessing you and I don't like that either. I know I don't. I want to live my life according to how I want, not what other people tell me to. And so this is not going to give you, the magic formula of if you say XYZ, then your teenager will jump up and say, I am happy to help, and I will no longer sit on my phone all day. This is a podcast that focuses on you because you are what makes the biggest impact in your parenting experience, not your kids. Wild times, but true. All right, so let's look at the role of development and the teenage brain. Very exciting. I've read books, I've taken classes, and I am fascinated by the psychology that is so very different as we move through different eras of our life. When we're looking at teenagers, we've got brain development. You've got the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. The amygdala starts developing in earlier adolescence, 12, 13, somewhere in there. And then the prefrontal, which starts developing around 15, 16. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for planning, decision-making, long-term thinking. And this is just starting to develop as they are beginning to make bigger decisions, like what sports to play or activities to participate in, who their friends are, if they're going to go to school and where, and maybe what they'd want to study, all of those different things. And then we've got the amygdala. The amygdala is kind of like the gas pedal, and the prefrontal is kind of like the brakes. And the teenagers prioritize their amygdala drivers far greater than their prefrontal. Sorry, it's a tongue twister. And most adults do this too. If we look at all human behavior, most of us are catering to our amygdala because it is our instincts to survive. And it has 3 jobs other than keeping us safe when we go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. It has 3 main drivers, which is to conserve energy so that we can live longer, right? We can't burn off all our calories because we need to live longer. So to conserve energy, to seek pleasure, and to avoid pain. That's why our kids are unmotivated, because this part of their brain is going through mass development. And our teens are going to prioritize those short-term rewards over the long-term benefits, which can make them seem unmotivated about future-oriented tasks specifically, even if it's tomorrow, because the amygdala lives in the here and now. And that is what is going through major development until their later teen years. Then we've got hormonal and emotional factors. Their emotional highs and lows can cause inconsistency in effort, and they really do have a lot of massive changes and intensity. And then you've got social pressures and fear of failure, and that can be very paralyzing to their desire to try, especially if anxiety is in the mix. Then we've got the psychosocial stage of development, which is who am I? And this is what they're developing through the teen years. And so they're going to try on a lot of different hats about who they want to be. So they might lack clarity about what they want or why it matters. Because one day they're like, I really want this bike. It's going to make me so happy. And then they get the bike and they're like, nope, it didn't make me happy. Maybe I'm an athlete and I should try out for the track team. And so then they try out for the track team. And one day they like country music and the next day they like R&B. And it's whiplash trying to keep up with them. And it seems like they're not motivated or they can't commit to things. That actually, it is a psychosocial normal stage of development for them to try a little bit of this, a little bit of that. They're going to go through friends like crazy potentially. They have a lot going on developmentally, is what I'm trying to say. So rest assured, what may seem like apathy can very well just be a natural part of their brain, hormonal, and mental development. I promise. Now, again, we want to look at hallmarks that are red flags for something else going on. But they have a lot going on. So pay attention to their development. Now, let's look at the power of intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation, which is internal or external. So extrinsic motivation could be grades, trophies, parental approval, or peer approval. It can look like I'm not going to do my homework because my friends want to hang out, and them liking me and me not missing out is more important than my math test next week that I don't want to study for. External motivations and rewards can be effective short term, but they often fail in creating lasting motivation. And parents who have tried, for example, to bribe children, hey, I'll give you, $10 for every A you get, for example. Or if you do your chores on Saturday, you get your phone on Sunday or whatever. You know this. You know that they'll play along for a while, but long term, it does not change their attitude toward chores or towards grades. The risk in this, when we try to full on just externally reward our kids, is that they can start to feel controlled rather than empowered. They feel like their parents are trying to manipulate them and dictate the do's and don'ts and how they live their life, and they may push against that. Or even worse, they may fold into that. And the reason why that is worse is because they are complying out of fear for love, for support, for likability. And that is unfortunately perfect breeding grounds to be the victim of unhealthy relationships. I would much rather have a teen push against parents than yield, because that shows a sense of self, a sense of voice, and a sense of strength. But when teenagers who are notoriously and developmentally going through a phase which they should be taking risks, which they should be questioning everything, which they should be pushing back to be developmentally on point and healthy, and they're not, that's a huge red flag for their mental and emotional health. Then we've got intrinsic motivation, which is our internal drive. Examples of this are passion, personal satisfaction, curiosity. It's what makes us tick. It's exciting. We do it because we want to. And I guarantee you that unless your kid is dealing with something diagnosable like depression or anxiety, they have intrinsic motivation to do certain things. Might not be what you like or what you want, but they've got it if you're open enough to seeing it. And this is what we want to cultivate in them. This helps our kids connect their actions to what they value, not just what we value. Because we want to raise our children to be strong individuals who know themselves, and who stand up for themselves and have their own back and develop skills and abilities that will lead to a fulfilling and happy life for them. Now, it might be really random. It might be, for example, like mushrooms. My daughter, when she was 10, she ordered these like oyster mushroom growing things, and she was so pumped. And she loved learning about all the different kinds of mushrooms and where you could forage them in nature. Really random, but so fun that she was so passionate about it. And she's moved on from that. She's now certifying to be a yoga instructor, which is so awesome. She's only 14, and that's her new passion. And they're going to jump from passion to passion. And we want to help our kids to cultivate their passions because eventually one of those is going to stick and be a fulfilling, lifelong career or hobby or interest of theirs, which is great. So when we look at a practical example of how to move towards intrinsic motivation for our teenagers rather than the external reward, instead of saying you need to get good grades to get into college, an example that is different could be, what do you want to create for your future? And can school or certain classes help you get there? And how can I support you in that? Because teens are more likely to thrive when they feel ownership over their own goals and over their own achievements and who they want to be. An example of this is our son. He made a lot of money his senior year because the market was really great. He made money in cryptocurrency and NFTs and stuff that I don't even understand. Like lots of money. And he thought, oh, I don't have to go to college because I found my passion. And so he took a year after high school. He was living his best life. He was doing what he loved. But guess what? The market crashed and he lost a lot of his money. But he didn't want to go to college because he didn't really enjoy the formal education setting. He's very unique and thinks outside the box. And I love this. It is one of my favorite things about him. But it's also tricky because it makes moving in society a little more difficult because he doesn't fit the norm. And it was about halfway through that year, it was in December, and he came to my husband and I and said, I'm applying to colleges. And we were surprised and supportive. We didn't expect him because he made it very clear he never wanted to go to college. But because we allowed that to be an intrinsic motivation instead of pressuring him to fit social norms, he is now fully committed to college and doing his best. He's contributing to the tuition and he is absolutely loving it. And so by allowing him space to find his passions, to understand his passions, to develop his skills on his timetable and support him in that, he's living the life that he loves and he feels invested in, which is what we all want for our kids. Hi there. I just want to pause and let you know if you are struggling to make sense of your teen's behaviors, emotions are running wild, and you're looking to turn things around to have the family you dreamed of while rocking them to sleep, I would love to talk to you. I want to give you a special, powerful gift. 30 minutes with me, my friend. You'll walk away with more confidence, clarity, and understanding of what the issue is and your next best step in resolving any situation you bring to me. It's completely free. I love families and want to help yours be wildly happy and successful. Book this call by visiting my website, heatherfraser.com. Remember, Fraser is spelled with a Z-I in the middle. And don't worry, the link is also in the show notes. I look forward to meeting and helping you. Let's look at identifying the root cause of not caring for your kids. Obviously, we want to look at mental health and all of those things. But we want to ask ourselves, is your teen avoiding failure? Are they overwhelmed by expectations or the size of a task? Do they believe their efforts won't make a difference or don't matter? Then you want to listen and observe. You want to pay attention to their nonverbal cues as well as the things that they're saying and doing and their daily actions. We want to ask open-ended questions like, What feels trickiest about this? What makes this interesting for you? Or what makes this so awful to even consider doing? Or what would make this task more pleasant? Or what would be the reward, intrinsic reward, if you're able to accomplish this? And we want to encourage failure, honestly. If you can help your teen see that failure is a normal part of learning and growth, that it doesn't reflect their worth, their lovability, their intelligence, we are setting them up to take the best type of risks and develop themselves in the best ways possible. Now, let's look at some practical strategies that you can implement to inspire motivation. And again, if you're looking at the situation correctly, which is first and foremost, does my child need mental or emotional support in some way? Is there something diagnosable? And then also looking at normal neurological and emotional development. When we are implementing strategies that I'm about to give you with that mindset, then we are not looking to get something out of our child for our benefit, but rather just to love and support them. And we are open to however their life is going to look for them, which is actually what feels the most nurturing and supportive to our kids, which means they will be the most open to receive it. Okay, so we really need to let go of my kid has to have this kind of grades or this kind of performance in the piano or whatever it is, or in their chores. When we can let go of that and look at them as a complete human rather than something that needs to meet our need, these strategies become far more simple. First and foremost, let them experience natural consequences. Please follow through with punishments if it's something like they didn't plug in their phone or they didn't do chores properly and there's family consequence for that. Follow through with the consequence. Avoid rescuing them from every mistake because mistakes are an important way of learning. So if your kid wants to blow $4,000 on some computer that's going to be awesome and solve all their problems, maybe consider letting them. Because what a better way to learn about budgeting and how to manage our finances when they don't have a mortgage or rent to be paid. It's a brilliant place to learn about money. If they don't study and they fail a test, let them sit with the outcome while offering support without judgment. None of this, I told you so, or smugness. Just like, yeah, sometimes I forget to set my alarm too, or sometimes I'm too busy to prepare for what I have next week as well. And this is called life, and you're still totally worthy of love. I love you. It's not a problem. And yes, also it stings. And I get that because we've all been there. Number two is we want to help them break down bigger tasks because overwhelm kills motivation. This is especially true with kids with ADD or ADHD. They will look at something that's too overwhelming and they will avoid it like the plague. Whereas a more neuronormal kid can break things down more readily by themselves. So we want to give our kids small, achievable goals. One of my favorite things is when one of my kids feels really overwhelmed, I will call it what it is. I will say, "It seems like this is really overwhelming for you." And typically they'll say yes or no. And then if it's overwhelming, I will ask to sit with them and be with them throughout the duration of getting things done and helping them also break it down. Like cleaning your room, for example. If their room looks like a tornado whipped through it, it is too overwhelming. They don't know where to start, for example. And so saying, hey, let's play 3 songs. And for the first song, we are going to gather dirty laundry. For the second song, we are going to make your bed and throw away trash. And then for the third song, we're going to put stuff away. And I'm going to be here to help you the whole time. That can be so encouraging. And oftentimes, when our kids get rolling, again, this is just human condition, then it is easy to continue in that momentum moving forward. Oftentimes, getting started is the worst part of it. And so, if we can just encourage our kids, even to set a timer, let's just set the timer for 5 minutes of doing your math. And then usually they're like, oh, I only have, a couple problems left after the timer goes off, and I'm just going to wrap it up. We want to say things like that. We want to chunk it. We want to break it down instead of, you need to get this done by the end of the night. That's less helpful. And then the third thing is to find their why, their reasoning, their intrinsic or extrinsic motivation. This can help them connect their actions to their long-term goals or values. An example, let's say they love video games. Show them how many math skills could help them build their own game one day. That could be really fun. And then the fourth thing is we want to focus on effort more than results. So we want to praise their process and effort, not just, oh, you're so smart, you got an A. We want to say things like, you studied so hard, you earned that. Good job. I'm so proud of you. Or whether they failed or succeeded, I saw how dedicated you were all week to that project, and I'm so proud of you for giving it your all. And I'm sorry that it fell short in this way or other people on the project didn't follow through, but I know you did a great job. And then number 5 is potentially the most important. We want to model for them what this looks like. We want to practice what we preach, my friend. And this doesn't make us robots because guess what? You don't have to earn rest. We all deserve rest and relaxation, but we can model for them what motivation looks like not being a robot. Again, rest and action, rest and action. We need balance. But our kids watch by learning. So share your own goals, share your struggles, share your failures for sure. Let them see your perseverance. Some examples could be like, I didn't feel like going to work today or fixing dinner, but I reminded myself that I love helping you and the people that I work with. And so I showed up and I did it anyway. And it was so hard, but I'm so proud of myself for giving it all that I had, which was about 30%. And I'm so proud that I gave all 30% that I had. So we really want to model that. One significant chunk of motivating our children, or literally anybody, is the role of our relationship generally with them. Now, let's look at an example for you. Let's say at church or at work or in an organization that you've got, you have certain tasks. And let's imagine that you have a supervisor or a coworker or a manager that always seems to pick you apart, that never acknowledges the efforts that you're making, that's low-key judgy, and you just don't really enjoy being around because you don't have fun, because you always feel like they're watching you, and it's just not super positive. Versus having that person be somebody that you know loves and respects you, that they assume the best of you, not the worst of you, that they believe you and they love you and they're there to help you succeed in your role. And they see you as a person rather than the tasks you need to do. That is how we are to our children. So, to best motivate and influence and help your child, you need to have a strong relationship with them first and foremost, because nobody wants to listen to a nag. Constant reminders backfire. It makes them resentful and resistant. Instead of saying, you need to get this done or why isn't this done? We can be like, oh, I'm confused. I thought that this was going to get done. What's going on for you? Like, is something wrong? Can I help you? What's your plan for handling this? I know you've got it. Let me know if you need support. I'm confused as to why this didn't happen at the agreed upon time. Did something come up for you? Giving them the benefit of the doubt and seeing them as a person rather than inconsistent effort. Teens are more likely to care about your guidance if they feel a strong, trusting relationship with you. So spend time together doing activities and having fun. We want to meet them where they're at. So if your kid enjoys playing video games, go play video games with them. If they enjoy skiing, go hit the slopes with them. If they love to go get a soda, go get a soda with them. And I understand that sometimes our kids don't want to do things with us. That's fine. Maximize the time that you do have. Start fun rituals where you tuck them in at night and you give them hugs and you tell them you love them. Buy their favorite groceries at the grocery store and make their favorite meals and let them know, hey, I thought of you and I wanted to make this for you for dinner. At whatever level you can strive to connect with them, do so. And then we want to validate their feelings, acknowledge their struggles. Doesn't mean we have to fix it, but we can say, yeah, I can see why this feels overwhelming. Is there anything I can do to help you? Or, yeah, I understand you've had a long day. You had swim before school, then you had a full day of school, and then you had swim after. Makes perfect sense that you just want to sit and chill. I get that. And then last of all, seek additional support when needed. There are so many great resources for you that fit every time and every budget. If you're seeing red flags that I spoke of at the beginning of the episode, seek support for your kids. It does not mean that you have failed, that they are weak, that something is broken. It just means we're all human. That's it. Everybody's human. We all have struggles. Nobody gets to avoid life or avoid struggles in this thing called life. So to recap, motivation starts with understanding their why and their interests. Focus on connection, encouragement, and a safe way to fail or safe-ish. Cultivate intrinsic motivation as a long game. My friend, it is pretty much guaranteed that your teenager's journey is not going to look like you expected. But with or without diagnoses and struggles, they are capable of finding their way when you are open to their way, looking a variety of directions. With your patience and with your love and with your support, they will get there. All right, I encourage you, book a peaceful parenting strategy call with me if you would like personalized support in helping you better understand how to motivate your teen, how to make peace with the path that they are choosing. You've got this, and I am here to help you, and I'll talk to you next week.